Hello, hello. This is Christina, your host today, and today is a new episode of KSM Podcast, Going Business Online with Christina. I am so excited today to have my special guest, Lady Winnie Sung, far away from Hong Kong. Um, Winnie, welcome to the new episode of KSM Podcast.
Thank you for having me, Christina.
I'm so excited to have you today. And can you share with us a little bit about you, who you are and what you do?
Hmm. So I'm originally from Hong Kong and I still live in Hong Kong now. But actually, I've kind of lived around the world. So I've lived in Canada, Germany, and also some years in China. So currently back in Hong Kong. I've also done various things. I suppose I didn't really have a very linear career in that sense, but I actually started off as a lawyer in Canada. And then from there in Germany, I plunged into the world of corporate real estate management for a Fortune 500 company, which actually then led me back to Hong Kong in 2014 to manage the APEC region, also real estate and facility management. And then, yeah, in 2018, there was another transition where then I went into more general management in China for the same company for one of the big investment projects we had there. And from there, basically, I actually ended up quitting at the end of 2021, in the middle of the pandemic, actually, where, yeah, I plunged into the world of business and decided to really start my own venture in the active aging area. And so currently I'm focused on life coaching, which is part of that active aging business.
It's very interesting, and when you mentioned that were so that you're so experienced working in corporate world, and as I have many and had many guest speakers who were in a similar situation as you are, and after that they start their own business journey. And congratulations on your decision to start your own business journey. But when you mentioned that corporate world, what was so great experience for you to work in corporate sector, and then what triggered you to start your own business journey?
Mm. The greatest thing I think in the end are the people that I worked with over the years in all the different positions and everything. I really met great people. And I think that's in the end for me what I take away, the relationships that I've formed with the different people that I've worked with. And it actually is also part of that. So my first kind of real leadership role, right, where I took on substantial leadership responsibility was in 2014 when I came back to Hong Kong and started leading the APEC team. And it's really also through that team, right, and the leadership aspects of that that allowed me to discover my why, my so-called life purpose. And realizing that is actually what turned me to the whole idea around I want to start my own business and make the kind of impact that I want to make in this world, which is consistent with my why. So it is actually very much from that, the relationships I've built and the leadership responsibilities that allowed me to discover my purpose. And then from there, then this is what led me then to my business path.
Mm. It's really awesome, and I really appreciate what you do, because when you realized and wanted to know your why
Mm,
do you do what you do, and why do you like to do what you do? This is so, and this is from my perspective, like I was so shy in front of camera, and I've done challenge, and I spoke about it many times in this on this podcast. And yeah, so but people always need to move forward and to discover what they want, just like if they wanted to achieve more and see their potential, they can do it, like, and but they need to try all the time. We need to
mm.
try, and we need to experience. If we don't try, we have never know how it's going to be.
Absolutely. Yeah, totally agree. For me, it was precisely that. It's always this kind of almost like trial and error, trial and error. and then you just, yeah, keep finding the next step, and then because it wasn't like, I think for some people they feel like, oh, it's like either they know from a very young age, like, oh, this is what I'm meant to do, and then there are other people who say, yes, literally, like, it's like a light bulb that came on and I knew this was what it was. But for me, it was always the journey. Like, it was kind of this evolution, and then it slowly became clearer and clearer and clearer. Like, so that was my journey. So I agree with exactly what you say. You just have to keep doing that next thing and trying, and then sort of eventually it kind of becomes clear.
And this is the way how you grow, how we grow together. And in today's episode, today's show, we also grow together because we exchange our experience and we do
Yeah.
interactive work and we have interaction. So for me, the best way is when you work with people and when you interact, and you can, because if we learn something from the books or educate ourselves as a theory, this is the one way. But the best way for myself, what I think, when you do practice, when you work with people and you have never know who you will meet, who do you work with, who will be your clients, because and clients sometimes discover your new skills. Isn't that correct? This is from my perspective.
Totally. Yes, for sure. So that's really why, like, I love great conversations, because the great conversations is where you really you grow, right, as part of that. And really also definitely with clients too, because sometimes, as a coach, right, you're a coach yourself. I think sometimes there's an impression like, oh, well, you're a coach, so you already must be somehow, I don't know, like very developed, right? But actually, we are growing together with our clients too through every conversation, while we are supporting our clients and holding space for them to discover their truths and what they do. Like, I'm very much feeding off of that and growing as well. And this is why, like, I love what I do.
And also you grow with your clients because you learn from your clients.
Exactly. Yeah. So it's a two-way street. Yeah, for sure.
Like on a case study, let's say. I don't want to say that every single client is case study, but in some way, yes, because people are different and they have different energy, and how do you approach to them, and we need to be so customizable. As from my perspective as a digital marketing coach, I really do with people and work with people to approach to my customers and clients in terms to be so customizable. No, I'm not too much fan of courses because I wanted to run them to the process, and I can create a course, but maybe that course will be fit for you, but for maybe from your calling not. Do you understand what I'm talking?
Mm,
Because we need to
yes.
approach our clients and see what are the pain points and how to approach to them, like to help them and give our best.
Yeah, for sure. So that's actually also very much how I approach with my clients. So of course there are like kind of frameworks, strategies, approaches, but exactly as you say, some approaches work for some clients and others just don't. Right? It doesn't mean that that methodology is not effective. It just means it's not the way the client likes to think about it, or it just doesn't happen to work. So we do need to be flexible in terms of being able to adjust to then best support the client. Because yeah, it's not about us rolling out a methodology or a course or whatever, right? It's about how to best support the client to get the outcomes that they are looking for. And so in that sense, yeah, it is an ongoing exchange where we learn from each other, and then we basically together discover how it is that can help them move the needle to whatever the outcome is that they want to get to.
And also through that connection, through that work, people just have some kind of, they can create some partnership, for example, in business. This is from my perspective. Like people just, for example, I have one client from Caribbean, and we plan to write our common book, how I get co-author's book about
Yeah, yeah,
online business and female leadership, like, let's say something like. And we started doing that, but time consuming and all those. So this is what I wanted to say, that you have partners in that, and we also have our mentors and coaches
yeah,
as
for
as a
sure. Yeah, we
coach.
always say the coach needs your own coach. Yeah, for sure.
Yeah, this is. This is so important. And Winnie, when you started you mentioned that it was like when was the virus, you started your business. Is that correct? And can you share
It
with
was during the
us?
pandemic.
Yeah, that's so true. That's that I'm how I met you and just was thinking talking to you about your business before our show today, but also um, what is the core? I know that you do in a way about positive psychology. Can you share with us about it? What is it, positive psychology, and how do you approach it in your business, in your coaching part? Maybe for some
Yeah.
audience, for some people that will be so new, maybe they didn't know nothing about it. And maybe for some
Mm,
people will be for the first time to hear
mm,
about it or to get to know more.
mm. So it's actually positive intelligence, which is different from sort of just positive psychology. Yeah? So the system I use is called positive intelligence, and what that is that it's actually kind of almost like an operating system for the mind. And it's a system that was devised by Shazad Shamin. And there's actually a New York Times bestseller book on it called Positive Intelligence. So for anyone who wants to check it out, that's actually available. And the whole idea of this kind of operating system for the mind is about helping people discover and understand the root cause of what's driving their negative emotions so that you can, first of all, learn to recognize it, so catch it when you're having these negative thoughts, because we all have them. And then from there, how to shift from that negative space, which is actually costing us a lot in our lives, whether we realize it or not. Some might think it's obvious. We know that when we're kind of spinning right down that rabbit hole of negative emotions, we're not really helping ourselves, right? Like we're getting in our own way, basically. So once you catch it, to then there's a practice to basically help you then get back control of your mind so that you don't keep spiraling down this rabbit hole. And then from there, once you're basically in a more neutral or positive state of mind, what we call the sage part of our brains, um, you can then use sage tools, that's also part of the system, to then help you basically come to better decisions and help you make more constructive decisions that are helping and serving you in your life. So that's kind of the essence of the whole system. It's all basically based on neuroscience, on cognitive behavioral science. So all of it is research backed. And it really brings, right? Because actually now this methodology has been like around and millions of people around the world have actually used it. And from basically training yourself on this system, one of the key things about this system that's different from many other is that it's a program that really helps you build up the healthy mental habits because mental habits actually in the well neuro how your mind fires is actually nothing but mental habits. Basically your brain is used to firing a certain way, right? That's kind of the neuroscience of it. And this helps you to literally rewire your brain. So when you go through and learn the system and over basically 7 weeks, um, the MRI imaging from people who do this over 7 weeks consistently literally shows how the gray matter in your brain shifts from basically the more negative side to the more positive. So it's actually quite crazy how much you can benefit from it. And the key areas that people benefit from by using this is in terms of improving performance, bettering relationships, and also just their own well-being, right? So that lower stress, lower anxiety, that kind of thing.
It's amazing because and do you do some like recording brain like to scan it after that 7 days or what how do you measure it? What is the metrics like that you know that you can see maybe there I must say that I was a little bit researching and Dr. Joe Dispenza he has been doing something like that in terms of neuroscience and rewire your brain and other things. And he does like a recordings. I mean, like a you know, just scanning brain after that when we are in positive mode, when we are in negative mode. So how do you measure it, like that after that 7 days when people use that strategy and
Mm.
approach to heal them? No, let's say heal, but just to move from that negative statement to the positive.
So when the whole system was devised, right? When they did the actual research, they were literally scanning people's brains through MRI imaging. So yeah, we're like very definitely oversimplifying, right? But it really is talking about how the different firing patterns, as you described, when people are in that kind of negative emotions versus when they're positive. And so in the research phase, they were literally scanning this. And then when people did the practice over the course of 6 weeks, actually, when they did the research, it was 6 weeks, they showed that shift from the negative part of the brain to the positive, right? That there's more gray matter than in the positive kind of neural pathways of the brain. So that was the research part. When people are simply doing this now, of course, I mean, there's a cost to scanning everyone's brain, right? So for sure, now during the course, we're not scanning everyone's brains. So there's a combination of two things. One is the just self-reported, right? So at the beginning of before the training, you'll sort of report on this is how I feel, right? Like, stress levels, relationships, performance, all of those key areas. Then basically you go through it. And then at the end, people will also then report, and there's lots of statistics then showing, right, the market improvement in terms of all of these metrics, right, that people report. So there's the self-reporting aspect of it, which is tried and tested with millions of people around the world. Then the second aspect is that actually the whole program is run through, it's app based. So there are these videos, and then there's like these daily exercises that you then do, which is the practice of it, right? So then from the research, right, they have like almost these kind of algorithms of sorts, right, in the app, where as you do these, what we call PQ reps, like this is that basic practice of gaining self-command of your mind. Um, Basically, you will record that you did them, how many you did, how long you did it, however minutes, right? And that actually starts tracking. And so over the course of the program, basically you can see the progress that you've made. So without the actual scanning of the brain, this algorithm that's tracking that will show you, right, that yes, in fact, you've made this much progress because you've done a certain number of repetitions of that self-command exercise.
Yeah, this is the way
Yeah,
how
so
to
those are two
record
different.
it. This is the way how to measure it, like your progress.
Yes, exactly.
It's
Yeah.
totally okay, Just I was
Mm.
just thinking like how people measure it, but this is of course people who created that, and when you follow that strategy and course, there
Yeah.
is a way how
I
to
suppose there's nothing.
do metrics.
I suppose there's nothing stopping someone from saying, "I literally want to scan my brain before and after." But I haven't yet had a client who requested that. But yeah, I suppose there's nothing stopping them from doing it.
Yeah, of course. Yeah, but that's so this is so cool, I must say. And when you mention building work with people and building relationship, this is so important, like
Mm.
to do anything in your life, like especially in a business mode, when you
Oh,
need
for
to know
sure.
who do you work with, and because you come from you have a lot of experience in terms of corporate sector, and then you're now
Mm.
it's you work for yourself now as your own boss. Is that correct?
Yes, that's correct.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And what is
Yeah,
the
and I think
feeling when you do for yourself, when you work, just like to approach the people in your way, how do you want to approach and
it feels amazing. I do think that from the moment where I really start feeling that kind of almost like fire inside of, oh, I want to start my own business. I want to start my own business. And to sort of making it happen, there's that kind of thrill of the, wow, I'm finally starting. And then, of course, you realize that along the way, right, that it's, of course, not all smooth sailing and happy, right? You will also have lots of challenges. And so then you start going, oh, okay, so there are also challenges. So just because you're doing what you want to do doesn't now mean, right, everything is just great and like there are no problems, right? So, but I think there's such a fundamental difference between when I experienced challenges in my previous corporate life. when then, that stress and like you're trying to solve something and, you'll figure it out somehow. But then you get all these very, very negative emotions inside you that somehow it doesn't sit right. At least it didn't sit right with me, right? Whereas now, when I'm running my own business and I know the kind of impact that I can create through the work that I do, and it's exactly the kind of impact I want to make, right? I don't know if it's the kind of impact anybody else wants to make, but at least I know for myself that that's precisely the kind of impact I want to make. Then for me, facing those challenges becomes just, well, that's just the way it is. And I'm almost happy to deal with those challenges, even if it's very difficult, right? It's just a very, very different kind of mindset because I know by overcoming that challenge, right, I'm that much closer to creating that kind of impact that I want to create. Versus, I think in the previous corporate life, not that like everything I did didn't mean anything to me. Of course, there were aspects that meant something to me, but there were a lot of times where I would solve a big problem or we'd get a certain result. But then I sit there and I go, okay, yeah, and what's next? You
Yeah,
just don't
and
feel like,
I understand you because when you're in corporate sector and corporate job, you have everything structuring, and then you can follow it every single day. Like you have a rules, you have a plan, you have everything. But when you are entrepreneur, it's not easy to be entrepreneur, and we have obstacles, we have challenges, but the feeling is better because you are responsible for everything. You can you can give your best because you can sit down and say, okay, this works, this doesn't work, and try to resolve that, try to find this way how to approach to the client or how to structure your business, how to create a budget, how to create your business model. And this is because in this Chasm podcast going business online. We with Christina, we just really wanted to share that because for our audience, especially for people who wanted to start their own business journey or who wanted to spread the word about their business or who wanted to go to the global market or to interact and connect with people globally and try to be on international market. So and this is what I'm just talking to you about this because uh, either that one or listener will be influenced or impacted by this story, that will be totally
mm,
full point because I really love to help people from our experience to share. And sometimes uh, every guest speaker has like a masterclass to talk about specific
mm.
expertise in the industry where guest speakers are.
Yeah, I think it's amazing what you're doing. And I think that for me, because I didn't grow up, my whole family, like everyone's an employee. There were no entrepreneurs in my life, I would even say. So I didn't have a lot of role models, so to speak, to kind of say, what do I follow? Is there a blueprint? Is like how do I even get started? And so it really felt like this kind of, and even my own friends, right? Most of them are not entrepreneurs. So for me, like I think like that's how something like a podcast like yours is so great because I think exactly as you say, people want to hear how are other people making this happen, right? And so for me, for example, because I had no role models and I didn't really know, like, so a resource like this is amazing because then it allows me to learn, right, from other people who've done it, and then also not feel so alone, I suppose, that, because entrepreneurial journey, especially when you're on your own, my aspirations is to definitely still grow a team and all of this, but that beginning part, right, when you're just all by yourself, then I always say it's me, myself, and I in a meeting, it can also sometimes feel lonely, right? That you're really like, oh, there's like, it's just me and myself and I, like, so I just keep, it's like, do you like this idea? Oh, let me think about it. Okay, I think like, there's no one to really kind of brainstorm with, right? So just, yeah, hearing other people's stories also allows me to not only learn from it and also just feels like, oh, look, other people have challenges too. Okay, I'm not the only one.
Yeah, and to be entrepreneur, it's not easy way.
Mm,
because to be a mom, to be mompreneur, to have homeschooling, to, all those kind of things. And I was in a book, Global Women in Business, which I'm part of as a co-author. It was 2019, published in Australia, in Melbourne. And it was like I was also talking about juggling between entrepreneurship and teaching, because I'm professor teacher for many years, and I know how to. And many of those ladies just share the stories about and their ups and downs, because we all are in a chart to start our own business journey. But this is something very, very serious, because you need to take action and to take your how I can say it, make decision to start that, and to take responsibility to run your
mm,
business. It's good
yeah.
you have idea, but people are in stuck, and this is a core of KSM podcast, to help business owners, ladies, gentlemen, to move forward. And
Mm,
I think that old stories are so valued, and 100% with all guest speakers who were in the podcast and you today. We are different, we are unique, and we have different approach to start business. And how do you feel after starting your business? You have challenges, you face them, as you mentioned, okay, I wanted to be entrepreneur, but it's not like a poof and this is my wish, like Santa will give it to me. No, this is something when you
yeah.
need really to, no, let's say hardworking, but sometimes yes.
Yeah, like for sure. I think exactly as you described. Like it's not that you say, "Oh, I'm gonna be entrepreneur. Yay, okay." Now, like actually, then you're like, "Oh, now I've got like 100 more things to figure out." And you figure out those 100 things, then you realize there's another 100 things to figure out. So it's an ongoing process, basically. But I think that because my nature is such that I enjoy learning, I always want to be learning. So that it suits me in that sense. Um, that because it is that continuous learning journey and recognizing that, yeah, it's not meant that you have all the answers. And sort of being okay with that. For sure, I think the corporate journey and especially into leadership, that I learned that already through that journey. But then as such an entrepreneur, um, really like being okay with uncertainty and then going ahead anyways is such an important part of that journey as an entrepreneur to be okay because when you're on your own and right you're kind of like spending your own money to make the next step and things like this like you really kind of like but right you're used to basically sitting there collecting a salary versus you now putting out your own capital right and then expecting to then get something in return so I think sometimes you there are moments where you sort of think, oh, should I really be doing this? Oh my God, am I crazy? Right. So, but then sort of being able to coach yourself almost to sort of be like, look, there's no certainty with anything, right? And actually, this day and age, right? I also say to people, yes, entrepreneurship is not for everyone, but even as an employee, there's no certainty anymore of that either. You could be the most loyal well-meaning and diligent employee and you can find yourself out of a job the next day because of some corporate restructuring through no fault of your own right that sorry your job's gone right and with AI and all of these things happening right like you always see in the headlines right hundreds of jobs cut and this and that so in this world where anyways there's embedded within the very systems that we're in this uncertainty I find that, what I kind of learned through my corporate journey, and then now sort of really applying that into my own entrepreneurial journey in terms of being okay to then move forward despite, right, uncertainty or even fear sometimes. It's so important. Otherwise, you really can just feel stuck and then you don't move forward. And that's
Yeah,
probably the worst
and
thing in
yeah, this is so
entrepreneurship.
important. It's as I said, and you mentioned that be entrepreneur is not easy. Easy. It's such a puzzle which you need to always cr- to put in place, and always to find some pieces of that puzzle to connect, like to be uh, full of like a full point, how I can say it. And
Mm,
yes, but the point also is to have people, to build relationship. This is a capital, I mean, like a human. Because as you mentioned, we can also have a mentor, have a coach. As we are coach starting from somewhere, there are coaches who just finished that, graduated, but there are so experienced coaches from their experience from corporate world or something like that. And but if we can invest in ourselves, but also if we don't know how to go, where to go, how to structure, how to create that business model, we can invest money, but there are people who don't get nothing from return. If they start something like
Mm,
we need to be passionate, we need to be so focus on that and to work on ourselves and on our business. But we need
yeah.
people. We need to build that relationship, which you mentioned before.
Definitely. I think for me, like on becoming my own kind of boss, right? They say, but that entrepreneur, like building the relationships in that sense and the kind of networking that you do for that is it's different than when you're just an employee representing a company and then like kind of making connections, I find. So I've definitely certainly also learned in the last few years doing this that there's actually a whole bunch of networking events and things I've been to, which are I don't want to say it's a total waste of time, but it's really ineffective, right? You go and you sort of meet people, and then it's like, oh yeah, hey, like this and that, exchange cards, and oh, what do you do? What do you do? Oh, interesting. Yeah, maybe we meet at something,
And
and
they
then
say,
nothing
okay,
happens.
I like what you do, but you don't have, that person couldn't say, okay, Vinny, let's schedule a call. I wanted to your course. I wanted to work with you. I want to from you to teach me. This is no
Mm,
way. And as you mentioned, some networking events are really wasting of time because
mm,
we can go blah blah blah. Okay, if we are in person or if online,
mm,
but you can go there. And sometimes when someone run that, the great benefit is from organizer because that organizer wanted to work with all those people to give them. And
mm,
I was in some networking when that person just speak all the time, and you just see go there. You have 30 seconds to represent yourself, to present, and that's it. And one lady also told why I'm going there because, and that lady who runs that, she wanted to attract those people for her courses, for her coaching and other things. And I think this is a way that people just wanted to interact. I know that people need to build relationship. This is true to build. We couldn't work with everyone. We cannot work with everyone. We can work with specific people, but also we wanted to spread the word about the business. And we are all there to do sales, how I can say it, to offer something. But this,
mm,
I'm I believe in referral marketing. I love that. I like
mm,
networking, but sometimes some networking events are really waste of time. I
mm.
agree with
Yeah.
you.
Mm. So definitely that's why like the experimenting with different things, right? That I found work. And I think well, probably also depends on what you're selling, right? Or what you do as your business. So for, I guess, yeah, for the kind of coaching that I'm doing, right? That, yeah, I've also definitely found like the referral is actually how I generally get business. Sure, I will do workshops, I'll do kind of talks and things, and that will attract. But how did you get those talks and workshops, right? That's actually also through people you know, right? Because you don't drop out of the sky and just, oh, here's my workshop, right? So, anyways, you have to somehow meet people, right? And then you have the right kind of relationships so that you're in a position to then, host a workshop here, be put in front of a certain community there, right? And the right kind of communities too, because if you just go in front of anybody, it's again not effective because you could just keep doing like I see so many people also like these they have the most well-intentioned idea around you're doing free workshops, free this, free that, right? But in the end, they just keep doing that again and again and again, and nothing comes of it
That free
because they're
workshop is lead magnet, just because you know that you go to the free webinar or workshop, and after that they will give you, if you can say from in next 24 hours, I will give you 50% off, or and who just uh,
but I
print
think
the
even setting that
put
up
the button and
properly.
say, okay, just because you have something like in discount after that, because this is lead magnet to attract people to sell your product. Why shouldn't you do your webinar for it's yes free of charge, but it's not for free. And this is the way also webinars, masterclass, workshops, event,
Yeah.
networking, whatever. As I said, from those networking events, there are people who just, and we are always there and we do like a funny stuff. Hello, how are you doing?
Yeah, yeah.
I like what you do. And what else? Nothing has happened. I don't have clients. I don't have leads. And why I should go there, especially when I'm different time zone? Maybe it's better to relax my body, to relax my brain for tomorrow
Mm.
morning.
Yeah, yeah, for sure. Actually, I have to say, like that actually really makes me think of the other aspect, because entrepreneurship can feel also like, well, now I don't even have office hours. You could just be working round the clock, 7 days a week, right? Because it's all you, right? But actually, for me, it's actually the process of also discovering the importance of rest for me, like to actually take those breaks and not feel guilty about it, right? Understanding that that's what's allowing me to get the kind of break and rest, like you say, like relax the body. Because by having that relaxed body, when you come back to the work, you're that much more energized and focused and be able to do so much better than if you just try to sit at the computer hour after hour or go to the next ineffective networking event and do that next thing, right? So choosing rest for me actually has also been very important. And that's also been a process because in the beginning, I think it felt like, oh, I have to do, right? But then definitely learning that, oh my God, like rest for me has become a very important component to be very intentional about it, so that I could then do better. And actually, then I'm actually more effective for my clients when I am present with them, to deliver the kind of outcomes that they're looking for.
Yes, this is so true, and this is so important for our business and for our life to be refreshed, to relax our body, brain. Because sometimes when you are overwhelmed, burnout in some way, you just feel that, and you cannot just you wanted to learn something, but you see that your focus goes somewhere else. And this is a way that we
Yeah.
really need to uh, relax our brain and to see where we are going to put our time consuming. Is it worth it to be on that un, um, successful business network?
Mhm.
And I
Yeah.
cancel. I'm
Yeah.
such a good networker, but I cancel a lot of them because I really don't see um, that people wanted to buy, or they can start between us to say, okay, I would like to try to your service. I wanted to see how do you work with. Let's start. But people just wanted to offer it, and that's it. And we need to interact with, and I always say, okay, why shouldn't we play as the clients and start in that relationship to start using just like a one class, one whatever, but to see when we are between each other to start to see how do you work your how how you work as a coach, how I work as a coach, and other things, because we need to test it. We need to feel that,
Mm.
as I
Mm.
mentioned before, to have interaction.
Yes, for
This is
sure.
energy,
Yeah.
and we just really need to feel out, to feel how we do that, how we perform, how we, and it's a better way to refer someone. This is the way how we have get to know each other deeper, what we do, and also
Mm.
as a human being, as a business owners.
Yeah. 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 And I think that like what you said earlier as well, right? That, we cannot work with everyone. Right? So it is about finding the right people, right? That have that similar energy working way, right? That you do then work well together. Because as coaches, right, it is so much about that energy exchange almost in that conversation. And if it doesn't feel like it's the right way, because people do work differently, have different styles and all this, and you can't really force that, right? And so to be effective and to really bring the kind of transformations, right, that we want to bring for our clients, to me, yeah, it is important that, like you say, you actually sometimes just have to start working together and see how that feels. Because without that, sometimes it's, yeah, just kind of talk.
Yes, and when we, uh, I had a meeting a few days ago, and one lady said, we don't have to, as you mentioned, we don't we cannot work with everyone, because my services and my coaching program is not for everyone. Also your, because there are different people. But also, when she said what I really noticed and I really like it, we don't have to choose people through the industry to work with them. We need to choose them through their habits, who they are, but how we can make it. We need to
Mm,
get to know each other, especially in online world. That means that we need to have much more meetings one to one to 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 get to know each other, because we work with people, and this is that I can say I can connect that with personal branding, because
mm,
we need persona, and behind the scene is your, no, I don't see your, like in general. This is your offer, this is your product, this is what you do. But people really wanted to get to know you, who you are. And I
mm,
think that video marketing and this podcast and all kind of podcasts are so important for people to see your body language, to hear your voice. I mean, hear not just your, of many people, in the world. And this is something, this is the beauty of podcasting. I mean, I was so shy, as I said, but in front of camera, but doing that podcast, it was doing that challenge, it was so challengeable for me, and now I'm here. I have never known that
yeah,
I'm going to be to host Lady Winnie Sung. I cannot
yeah,
imagine that. I couldn't dream of, but now we are here
yeah.
today.
Yes, it's amazing. I think, yeah, if I'd asked you 5 years ago, right, could you even imagine that you'd be doing your own podcast? You'll be like, what are you talking about?
Yeah,
Mm,
before we were on one Facebook group, and that lady said always, Christina, why don't you pop up in the group?
mm,
I always put some
mm,
design, something like that. She was a fan of like live.
mm,
She went live, she goes live, and talk, but I am not fan of live. But in that time, I created 15 videos and hosted four
mm,
ladies. And I saw that it's so good for me, either that English is my second language, but anyway, and now I'm here that the podcast KSM is top 20 best in category of online business by FeedSpot, in meaning of 2 million of podcasts. So I
mm,
even dream of about it, but now I'm here, and I'm podcaster, and also I'm speaker. I was a speaker of
mhm,
many podcasts, and or we organize the summits, and it's general. So, and this is something what I said, when you work with people, you discover yourself. And
mm.
thankful to this
Yes.
podcast, I discovered more and more. Start designing for my podcast, like announcement. Because I have Canva, and I know that I have template for the web and graphic design, and I saw that they don't sometimes don't have time to create for me. And I said that I don't want to. I will start with my own self. So I will start it, and and that's it. And now I'm
Yeah.
here, so we
Yeah,
need
for
to
sure.
learn, but the best way is when you put that in practice mode, and that's it.
Yes. For sure. Yeah. Yeah. And I think that that's actually the thing that for me, because, yeah, like my business around active aging. So, like, my focus is definitely on that kind of midlife and beyond, right? The second half of life in that sense. And so, actually, very often, the kind of people I come across are people who are either struggling and thinking, oh, am I running out of time? Am I getting too old? Right? All that kind of thing. And a lot of times, what I find is that actually, yeah, that mindset of continuously learning something new, right? Of discovering new possibilities is just missing. They kind of almost expect like, well, yeah, but I'm already at this point in my life. Shouldn't I know it all by now? Shouldn't I have all the answers and all of this? And I'm a little bit like, no, not at all, right? Why should you ever expect that you'd know everything, right? So, but then like kind of just rediscovering with them, right? That sense of curiosity that they have for the world, and then really going about getting them excited about learning again, about exposing themselves to new ideas and things. without feeling overwhelmed, right? But then, like, it's, yeah, you actually, so because we always talk about how, oh, we don't, you shouldn't, you don't want to have stress, right? But actually, stress is not necessarily a bad thing when sort of administered in the right doses, right? And we need that. We need that kind of strain almost, like I always say, healthy strain to grow. And so our trouble, actually, one of the things I keep telling people these days is about our, sometimes it's the comfort zone, which it's not even happy sometimes, right? But it's comfortable. You know what that is. So people are not willing to step outside of the comfort zone
People
to
have
try
a
something
fear of
different. To go.
unknown, of unknown.
And so they'd rather stay in the so-called comfort zone, even if that's miserable, even if that's basically,
They wanted
yeah,
they
unbearable.
don't want it to put step forward to move. Like
Yes, so they'd rather stay in that stuck, miserable, horrible situation that they're completely unhappy in because at least they say they know what that is. And so then helping people through that to say, well, what is so scary about that unknown, right? And then you start, it's a little bit of hand holding, but then it's really kind of holding that space for them so that they can start to realize that, oh, okay, maybe it is okay to like try, right? And even if it's just a little bit, right? So I think there's a lot of things out there, especially since that book, Atomic Habits, right? James Clear, talking about, right? Like these small steps. So rather than trying to take big leaps, which scares a lot of
I
people,
read that book.
um,
I have that book in my native language. I know it's amazing, and I
ah,
highly recommend that book. It's amazing, really.
mm, yes, the small steps, right? So then to help people through that so that they can step outside of their comfort zone one little step at a time until then they make that, yeah, then they grow in that process. And then once you gain momentum, then yeah, it's kind of like they talk about that 1% improvement every day, right? That basically adds up. And then over time, suddenly you realize, right? You're like so
Yeah.
far ahead. You're barely
Yes, yes.
recognizable. Yeah, I think it's like you when you said you started with those 15 videos, right? Because
Yes, but
you probably
as I
when asked,
said,
you were
this
like,
is something what
oh
I want. I did, as I said, I have never. It was like a playing, I was, and that lady, she could be like my mother, and she was so, and I was so impressed that uh, what she does. She was one of director of business in Hills in Australia. This is like some like a digital marketing internet services, something like that, through all Australia. It's not like a promotion today, but and I saw that they always have run those directors and that owner just host and interview those directors, and I was like, okay. And we started like a global coffee circle and that Rembrandt Women Embracing the World. And we had in that group many women from all around the world. And I was like, she was, we have done posting and everything. But I just wanted to start with challenging, and she was doing a challenge, and after that, I started 21 day. It was and it's a part of my coaching, like a digital marketing plan strategy, which I have also program for that, and still I do that in terms of coaching, and after that I created that. And I started creating videos and talk about SEO, talk about all those kind of digital marketing, different topics
no.
about mm, Google business page or how to start, why is it important to have website, all those kind of things, like to move forward in digital space, to be present online. And after that, I saw, okay, I can run something like, and I host of some of those ladies who are so, I was, I know them. We had many times like one-to-one session or like a meeting or something like that. And I hosted them, and it was Promo Entrepreneur Day. We have for on Friday Promo Entrepreneur Day, and this is how I started. And after that, I've done my rebranding. I started with I created that my background. You can see that. And I started with my new skills, and I've done rebranding and upload on Fitspot. And after that, I got it top 20. So this is something when people need, I always suggest be doer and also be giver, and you will be a receiver. If you give, you don't have to expect for someone who do. give, give, but you will get for someone else when you need some help or
Yeah.
something like that. Because this is like a in universe chain exchange, how I can say it. And but we
Yes.
really need to be to play a little bit bigger than we are now. And I didn't just try, if try, interact, put in practice, do it, be doer, and then we'll see what happens.
Mm, yeah, absolutely. Yeah, it's one of those, like, some people will say, "Oh, yes, I already have this grand plan, so I'm just gonna like step by step go." But sometimes it's also like, for me, because I'm driven by my why and my purpose, so that's kind of my ultimate, what I'm always kind of steering myself towards, right? But even for those who say, "Well, I don't have such a clear thing," right? Or I don't even care for to define that for myself, or I don't have a grand vision. Sometimes it is those little steps you take. You don't know where it leads. And like you say, like, for sure, I totally agree. This whole giving aspect, you're just giving because you want to give, not because you know or expect anything in return. But when you just keep doing that consistently, right? Yeah, I also fundamentally believe it comes back in beautiful ways, that you could never even imagine yourself.
And you, Winnie, you work global. You work online.
Mm. Yes, work online. So most basically all of my coaching I can do online. So in Hong Kong, I do basically do in person. So I will have some in-person workshops and things like that. But basically all of the coaching I do can be done online. And then only if requested locally right now in Hong Kong, then of course I can meet in person. But actually I find, I don't know if it's since the pandemic or what, but most people, even in Hong Kong, they'll say, "Oh yeah, online's good." So I think it's just more convenient for people. But
Yeah,
yeah,
and
I
it's not, you don't lose time because you can
mm,
organize yourself and be much more productive. Either that computer is not so healthy place, but to work on, as I said, we need to relax, we need to rewire and relax our
mm,
brain and body. So
yeah.
who are mostly your clients? You mentioned middle life, but also how
Mm.
people, where someone wanted to help you, what they need to have as like as a problem or pain points or something like that, that they can work with Winnie and Winnie can help you, and just reach out. We will put all information and website and social media connection pages and contact and everything for you, for our listeners.
So yeah, so the people I focus on at the moment are midlife professionals and leaders. Most of them come because they're somehow struggling to find clarity and meaning in life. So they can be very successful, but it's not then equated to they have crystal clarity on what's going on, and they even feel a lot of
What is their
fulfillment.
problem? What you said, they're so successful, and what are their pain points? What they have as a point, like as a
A
problem?
lot of a lot of them say they identify with going through a midlife crisis, but actually there is no
And what
definition
is
for
that
what is a
midlife
midlife
crisis?
crisis.
Maybe it's, let's say,
Mm.
with 2 words, 3 words, because there are people maybe who can recognize themselves in your
Well,
description
yes,
about
so
it.
but that's exactly the interesting part, because when you start talking to people and you say, "Okay, you say you're a midlife crisis, explain to me, what are you experiencing? What is your challenge?" You really get like a very broad spectrum. So there will be the ones, the pretty significant ones are usually some drastic change in a relationship. So for example, if they're going through a breakup, a divorce, that type of thing, that could be like a major change in midlife that sort of throws people off. Another one is sometimes losing their jobs, or they're so unhappy with their jobs, they're like maybe literally feeling ill, right? Like some people will say, like, I dread going to work so much, I literally ended up in hospital, like that kind of like very extreme type of thing. So those are then people who really then start questioning, right? Like, what am I doing with my life? What is going on, right? There are people who are actually also just experiencing really health issues in midlife because of, right, a combination of whatever is going on. So, but now they start to feel like, "Oh, I don't feel like my body can keep up anymore. And if I keep going like this, I'm not sure how much longer I'm going to be around." Right? So then And then, so those could be like these very singular problems that people have, or if it's bad enough, then they have a combination of it. Midlife, especially current midlife, there are people and a lot of women who struggle with this overwhelming sense of everything coming at them at once, meaning younger children, because people are having children later in life now. So basically, when you're in your late 30s, early 40s, you still have very small children you're taking care of. You have a career to juggle. You're still taking care of family. And then you have elderly parents, right? So basically, amongst all of those things, they're completely just going, whoa, overwhelmed. But then they hit this point where they suddenly go, what about me? What am I about? What do I want? Why is it that I'm taking care of everybody else, but who's
Who
taking
is
care of
taking care
me?
about me?
And then they look around and they realize no one, not even themselves. And then they go, I that this can't be. So then they say, no, I need to, I don't believe, right, that that's helping, right? And that's actually for me, like what I also keep preaching in a way almost is to say, yeah, like, you can, if you don't take care of yourself, you're in no position to take care of anybody else. So it's that putting the oxygen mask on yourself principle, right? So if you don't take care of yourself, if you don't think about your own needs, then you're not actually going to be of great service to anyone around you. And it's also not sustainable. So at some point, it's not going to work anymore. So it's in everyone's interest that we really also take a look at ourselves and take care of ourselves as well. Yeah. So,
Yeah,
but those
as
are
you
some
said,
of the
if
more
we're not
common
good
ones.
for ourselves, how we can help other people if we couldn't help ourselves? And this is
Yeah.
the way how we
So,
need to sleep, we need to relax, we need to don't lose time on unsuccessful networking events or something like that, what we mentioned before, because we really, as a middle life, as you said, we really need to think about where are we going to spend our time, and who will be focus on and give our time to family, business, or clients, however.
mm. So it is about prioritization, right? And then midlife, because you're going through these kind of changes as well, and all these different things coming at you, right? It is a time you have to reflect on your priorities, and it can be shifting, right? We literally, none of us can possibly do everything at the top all the time, right? So there will be times where you have to keep juggling and keep shifting, but doing it without guilt, shame, right? Feeling like you're letting people down, all that kind of stuff, right? So then getting clarity, right, on yeah, what is my priority? How do I make sure I take care of myself while also, doing the things for the people that I care about, right? It is a hard act to juggle, right? So this is, I think, where, yeah, in midlife, you're kind of, not that people have a lot of time, right? But this is why they want to work with coaches, because they don't want to then sit around and read 100 books and try to figure out themselves, right? They want someone to help them, keep them accountable so that with this, in as probably almost like accelerating their path to really living that life they want to live versus yeah, sure, I'm sure I can work it out myself in 10, 15, 20 years, right? So they can accelerate that process by working with someone in a more efficient. But we don't have a magic pill, right? So this is not like you could just kind of pay us and then we feed you a pill and then now suddenly you're you can do it all. It's not, it doesn't work that way.
Yeah,
But we
yeah,
certainly
this is
then
so
have
true.
the kind of blueprints, frameworks, yeah, to be able to cut down, right, on your trial and error and like basically to try to, yeah, take the guesswork out of a lot of it. Mm.
And Winnie, it's time. Time is going, and can you share with us how listeners can connect with you? I will put all links if you have something, free consultation or some freebie, whatever you have. I didn't ask before we started our show today, but yeah, what I will, how listeners can find you, how they can connect with you globally. And as I said, I will put all information. Is going to be on audio, Spotify, Amazon, Apple, also on YouTube channel, so that people can read in the description below this episode and they can connect with you.
Mm. So the main way is definitely my website. So I have a website that then outlines all of my services and who I am, all of these. So people can get in touch with me there. I'm also on Instagram. I'm also on Facebook, mostly on Instagram, but I also have a Facebook page. And so people can check me out there as well. LinkedIn, I'm also on. So those are sort of basically the ways to
Like a
connect with
Winnie
me.
Sung, Winnie Sung.
On actually on Instagram, I'm called Midlife Groove. So
It
yeah, where I
sounds
kind of
good.
post about different things.
The
Yeah, no, but I
midlife
mean
is
really.
midlife for your
Yeah,
experience
but
to work with your clients in midlife.
yeah. So yeah, so the basic, and then on my website, I also like for in-person events, online workshops, things like that. I also post like upcoming events,
And
that kind of
can
thing.
you share with us the
Um,
name of your website? The name of your
it's
title?
pivot-path.net.
Yeah, I will put all this information, you know.
Mm.
And do you have some kind of free consultation with people to who wanted to get to know more about you, what you do? They can also
Yes.
schedule that
So
to connect. They can connect with you on Instagram, Facebook, on LinkedIn, or on your website, and you will see who is connecting so you can get back to them.
exactly. So depending on the kind of topic they're interested in, because I have the different offerings, then on the website they can directly then book a free consultation with me. So each of them basically has something that's a free consultation, but there are different periods, different times, depending on the topic. So basically all of that they can find, yeah, on the website. And anyways, like any questions, they can always reach out to me on those various different channels.
Winnie, I always have a question for my guest speakers. Do you have some final message to encourage people to start their own business or to change something in their life, either that they're in midlife or young people or older?
I mean, for me, I think the key is, and that's what I live by as well, is it's to stay curious. Um, that is actually in the end what it is. I think we've already talked before, right? Like entrepreneurship is not necessarily for everyone, but the only way to find out is if you could stay curious enough about yourself, about everything around you, to find out, right? What I see, it doesn't matter, even young people, you would say, can tend to be more curious, but I also see some that are getting more and more conservative, right? Because, risk, uncertainty around the world, all of this. So what I can always say is that, yeah, like stay curious and that's something we should all be doing throughout our lives because it's by being open, right, to new ideas, new possibilities that we can then start to discover what's truly for ourselves. So I think that for me is definitely the key message.
So the point is be curious, curious
Mm,
all the time. I
yes.
know some guest speakers who were more, they overcome 80 and now they still
Mm,
work. They're working, you know.
yes,
So it doesn't
exactly.
mean it's one singer, she's 97 now. She
Mhm.
wrote a book here in my country in Europe, and it's amazing. So Winnie, thank you so very
Beautiful.
much for joining me today. I really enjoy, and I'm so honored and excited to have you as my special guest speaker today.
Thank you so much, Christina. It was wonderful.
Thank you so much, and I think that I will see you again in my pod because there are many guest speakers who were twice, three times. So I will see you again when you have something to
Yeah,
share,
happy to.
or just it's gonna be pleasure for myself and or for my audience, our audience to listen to you. Thank you so much again. Wish you a lot of success in your business and career and life, and see you very soon. And bye for now.
Yeah, thank you. Bye.
Bye.